Welcome to the second AI Jam, folks. Here we are. It's
You're off
a
camera, so it's fine.
little bit of a mix of some innovation and a little bit of showing our chops and a little bit of brainstorming and hopefully a little bit of fun as well. Our goal today is to learn about what our colleagues are trying and hopefully spark some ideas for your work. Maybe you'll get some scoop or some MacGyver type strategies or just hear what the peeps are up to. But hopefully grab your coffee, cozy up. It's a bit chillsome out there. I was just saying where I am, there was just a hailstorm, and I had sort of Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald flashbacks. I don't know if anybody else celebrated the 50th anniversary of that this week, but I think the gales of November came early here this morning. Anyway, we are getting ready to roll here, and I'll pass it over to Esther for a little bit more insight on why we're here and how it's going to happen.
Thanks, Lori. Perfect. Love a shipwreck reference on a rainy day. So we're here to learn what our colleagues are doing with AI and get inspired and think about what we're doing with AI and how we feel about it. Our team was just talking about how AI slot music is now the top of the Billboard chart 100, and top of Spotify list. So that's a bit alarming for us. So it's not necessarily to say AI is the best in all things, but mostly to say that we are experimenting it. What can we do with it? How can we leverage it for our work to help us kind of move with it with good, healthy skepticism and thoughtfulness? So we've got 5 great presenters. They've each got 5 minutes. They have done a ton of work to prepare for this and to make themselves really succinct. So they're going to pass the mic, and then right at the end, we're going to have a chance to hopefully have some questions. So you can think about them. You can post them in the chat as we're going. Will Haikoop is our mastermind and did so much work to bring this event about. So he's going to be monitoring our chat and keeping track of things. But thank you so much, Will, always. And without further ado, let's pass it. Last shout out, sorry, is to Jane Waldner, who's helping us from the comms point of view, comms team, event communication. So again, Jane, thank you so much. And they're both going to be our backup. So thanks, guys. And let's go for it. First presenter.
There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Aleem Lalani. I'm a Senior Information Systems Analyst over at Student Information Systems, formerly the EASY team. And I'll take you through how to integrate Copilot with Power Automate. So I'll start off by just letting you know what is Power Automate exactly. It's from our perspective as people who work with student information systems, it helps to repeat tasks over and over from Microsoft 365 applications, but we've managed to integrate this into Rosie as an example. So Power Automate uses Copilot integration and loops tasks within a browser, so like Rosie's in a browser, and it connects it to a Microsoft 365 app like Word or Excel to repeat your tasks. So what's neat about this is we're marrying an ancient proprietary application called Rosie, with an automation built from Microsoft 365, and the data flow goes back and forth if you need it to. So the biggest issue and why I'm here today is because Power Automate still uses technical syntax, like it'll say things like new var instead of new variable, as you can see on the screen there. It uses abbreviations that are confusing to non-IT users. So this is where Copilot helps tremendously. The example you see on screen there is essentially repeating a data entry task within Rosie. So I'll move to the next slide and explain what that is. So when you're using Copilot with Power Automate, and the newest versions of Power Automate do integrate Copilot, both desktop and cloud versions of Power Automate, the neat thing is that you can use natural English language. So Power Automate will spit out things like get data null. What the heck does that mean? Well, Copilot will simplify that. You just tell it what you need it to do and let it put its IT lingo on screen for you. You don't have to type that out yourself. The second neat thing it does is that it's an efficient macro flow setup. So in other words, repetitive tasks equal repetitive instructions. There are efficient ways to write this in Power Automate to optimize each of your line items. So that's something else Copilot helps with is when I wrote my first flow, there was something like 14 or 15 commands. And when I used Copilot to write the same thing after, it was 10 commands. But don't tell my manager that Copilot is more efficient. But here we are today. Copilot makes me look smarter. The third point is for guidance. It provides intelligent suggestions like error correction commands that you haven't considered. It's almost like having a live tutor look over your shoulder. So again, with respect to those strange syntax things like get data null, if you don't know what that means, you can physically ask it what that is, as if there's a live person with you. And the very last thing that it does really neat, I mentioned that in my first slide, was the customizable integration. Rosie is a proprietary app. Other places don't use Rosie. People will look at you sideways when they log into Rosie because it looks like DOS from the 1980s. Copilot can integrate with that. It will prompt you to integrate with Microsoft 365 apps, like a list of student numbers in Excel that you need to input into Rosie. So going a little further with Copilot, now while you're having this pseudo conversation with Copilot, it generally seems to want to please you, and I think that's kind of an AI chatbot thing right now in general. It's going to be positive, it's going to be encouraging, but within that positivity is efficiency, but efficiency in instructions for some is cut down instructions for others. So what if you need more granularity? You know, Copilot's being really nice to you. You're doing a great job. Here's what you do, but you need something a little more granular. So the integrated Copilot prompt within Power Automate, it is smart enough to get more granular, but you literally have to point it to the exact spot. You have to tell it what it's doing wrong or what it's leaving out. This is particularly challenging when you're using something proprietary like Rosie, where it has no instructional basis to pull from. Like you can't Google, how do you do this in Rosie? Rosie doesn't exist in the real world out there. It only exists here at U of T. So as a replacement for that, you would say, my web form application or something generic. You don't call it Rosie, you call it something generic. The example on screen just shows you sort of how I got more granular as things go on. The lesson that we learned out of this was that now that you have an initial set of Copilot instructions to work from, keep the integrated Copilot assistant open along the way. It remembers things just like ChatGPT would or any other AI chatbot. You just have to keep it open in the same window. It's going to help you refine your tasks along the way. So I made that strange comment before about having 14 or 15 commands in my first Power Automate macro, and Copilot helped me knock it down to 10. So what's neat is that Copilot will remember where you left off, even when you log in again later and bring up the macro one more time to improve it. So keep reminding it though that you're not using Microsoft 365, you're using a proprietary application that's in a web form or whatever it is, and your application is a general purpose. So in my case, for Rosie, I would refer to it as, this is a web form that stores data for student use or something like that. So I think if you can continue to refine your steps and then use Copilot as that extra tutor in the end, you're going to be really, really successful at Power Automate. It is a bit of a complex application to get started with, but it's worth the time invested. The nice thing is that it works with nearly everything we use at U of T, other applications. We don't necessarily recommend using it with something that has really consequential effects. So, you know, don't have it start withdrawing students on you if you're using it in Rosie. But, you know, if you need to enroll students in courses, we've seen uses for that on the 4 AAA screen if you're a Rosie user. So play with it a little bit. You can use the Rosie test environment if you have access to that. But I think it's a really neat tool that will help you along the way. So thank you, everyone. And I will pass it on to Olivier.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh yeah, applause. The crowd goes wild. Applause. And Andrew's either giving you a high five or she has a question. She'll have to put that in the chat.
Go for it, Olivier.
Yeah, sorry. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivier Saint-Cyr. I'm an associate professor teaching stream, Faculty of Information, also associate dean teaching and learning at the same faculty. And today I'm presenting my work on using Gen AI to help with note-taking requests at accessibility services. So this is a project that I've been working on for about a year now. And what we know is that student requests for note-taking has a lot of barriers at U of T. Primarily, the availability of note takers is one thing. We found that this problem is much more apparent in upper year courses and graduate courses where the class sizes are smaller. So it takes more effort to find note takers. People sometimes also don't want to share their notes, or they're reluctant to share their notes. We have to justify what the reward is for being a note taker, and especially doing this on a voluntary basis. And there's all three campuses at U of T, UTSC, UTM, and UT St. George, in all kinds of different units at different level, undergrad and graduate, experience this problem. So the work I'm talking about today was funded by a Leaf Plus grant to basically explore the possibility of automated note taking at U of T using Gen AI. So the approach was to really develop a proof of concept for this, not to solve the entire problem of note taking, but first start with like, is this doable, right? We partnered with, of course, accessibility services primarily at UT St. George, but we also included UTM and UTSC in our meetings with accessibility services. For this proof of concept, we also pilot with 3 first-year courses: Anthropology 100, History 101, and Philosophy 100. And we first talked with some folks at Accessibility Services. We really wanted to understand the context of what note-taking is, what are some of the obstacles, how are they feeling about note-taking. Also, Accessibility Services had conducted surveys about note-taking, so we used some of that data to inform our research. We then interviewed students across the 3 campuses, students who are either note takers or who need note taking or have a note taking accommodation. And especially we were interested in talking to students who have a note taking accommodation that was not fulfilled. So they were registered for an accommodation, but they were not able to find a note taker. We also talked to a few students who were using note-taking software such as Glean or JamWorks. U of T has those softwares available right now at a very, very limited access for pilot projects. So we were interested in learning their experience with note-taking and AI. So out of this, we developed a sort of proof of concept. So a fairly straightforward pipeline. We asked those professors to record their lectures using the OCCS system, which is the standard LSM system that is installed in LSM Podium classrooms. And then based on that, we could, through having access through their Quarkus and having access to the back end of the OCCS system, we can download their lecture recording. We could also go on their Quarkus page, download their PDF slides or any notes that the prof had like put there to supplement the lecture. And then we used a software to do the translation or the sort of voice to text transcription from the OCCS recording. And we fed all of this to Microsoft Azure AI model that we using Azure as a backbone, but we kind of developed and trained the model on sort of what are notes, like how to make notes, et cetera, et cetera. And then we created this little web interface here, which is our note taker generator. So essentially, drag the recording, drag the lecture file, click generate, and takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes. And then we have 3 customizable formats for the notes. So 3 ways of presenting the information, essentially. And then we took these notes and we ran a little bit of usability study with some students who are registered in these 3 courses to sort of basically find out whether the notes would be useful to them, would they use these notes if they were available, like that kind of stuff. We also did some research post-note generation with professors to validate the accuracy of the notes, so make sure that, the notes were generated in an accurate way, and also professors would be comfortable saying, yes, if these notes were available, they're sort of a true representation of what I've lectured about, and I would be very comfortable having these students or my students using these notes to studies. So cost for generating all this is about 3 to 5 cents USD, so it's fairly low cost, and this is with local transcription or transcription. So basically, like we do the audio to text locally, not using a cloud system. So we have a proof of concept that's working. We've been working with accessibility to try to see how we can test it further. We've learned quite a bit, especially that we've talked to STEM students, and they say their notes are somewhat more complex than sort of maybe notes that are from like sort of mainly lecture-based type of course. So their notes might have equations in it, or like diagrams or figures, or things like that. So we need to work a little bit more around STEM courses to see what the notes could look like for these courses. We would love to work on a better integration with Quarkus, so that we can have a way to kind of get this all flowing from the time the prof decides to record their notes, and they've agreed to share their recording with accessibility services that could flow through the system. We would love to integrate this with accessibility services systems so that if there is a note-taking request and no note volunteers can be found, and then the prof can agree to have this proof of concept used as a replacement to note taker. So we're not trying to get rid of human note-taking volunteers. We're trying to complement the offering. That's very important part of this project, so that every student who's registered for a note-taking accommodation can have access to that accommodation. And then there's also questions about, of course, the sustainability of the project. If we deploy this at a campus-wide level, like how would we sustain it in the long term? And there's some features that we're exploring too, like having a study buddy interface, like that can quiz you, use flashcards, Q&A. So how can the students use these notes to actually, not just study with them on paper or PDF, but they can actually have a little bit of more interactivity within the notes. And if you have any questions, I'm Olivier, and you can reach me at my email, and it'll be a pleasure for me to answer your question and explain more. Thank you.
Let's have that round of applause. We can for Olivier.
And now I have to pass it to Amy, I believe. Is that correct?
That's perfect.
Yes.
Let's welcome Donna Kidwell too. Our CAO. Donna's dropped in for our jam today. So hello to Donna. Shout out.
Right on.
Great.
So we have Christine.
Sorry, just 1 second.
No problem, no problem.
It's not. Oh, there we go. All good.
No problem.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Antony, a junior business analyst in information security. So when you think about AI, you're probably picturing coding, chatbots, but AI isn't just for the tech people anymore. Tools like Power Automate and Copilot, and you heard about this earlier today, it's making automation accessible for everyone, even if you've never written a single line of code. And today, I'm going to show you how administrative teams are using AI tools. So a lot of admin work is repetitive, and there's lots of it. Things like updating spreadsheets, chasing down approvals, sending reminders. It's manual. It's often pretty slow, and there is opportunity for mistakes. But the problem here isn't the people, it's the process. So what we did at CISO Executive Administrative Office is ask the question, well, how can we use AI to handle all the repetitive parts and give our teams the opportunity to focus on the people, planning, and coming up with creative solutions? So our approach was to use Power Automate, which is basically a drag and drop way of creating automated solutions. So you can take a form, for example, someone can fill it out, an automatic approval email can go out, an email could be, or a list could be updated, a manager could be notified. But the thing that makes Power Automate even more interesting is the Copilot component, which we have access to now. because you can easily just tell Copilot in plain English what you want it to do. So you could say something like, "Hey, Copilot, create a flow, something that will send a message on Teams every time someone fills out a form." And Copilot can help you do just that. So you don't have to worry about the code, no more Stack Overflow like we did back in the day. You could just use Copilot to help you. So again, what's happening is AI is now more accessible for everyone. So it started off with a small project for our team. We worked on 3. One was creating an automated onboarding process. So before this, onboarding was manual. Managers had to email HR, IT, their department, admins. They were sending welcome emails manually. But what happened here is sometimes people forgot, someone was left out of the loop, and people didn't get the info that they needed. But now, when a new hire submits a form, Power Automate could kick off a chain of reactions. It could automatically send all the notifications. It can create a task for you. It can update a SharePoint list. It can send the welcome emails. And most of that process can now happen within seconds as opposed to days. The next project that we worked on was meeting management. We used automation to handle scheduling, agenda tracking, and even post-meeting follow-ups. Because Copilot can actually listen to what you're saying in your meetings, it can create a summary of notes, and it can make a list of to-dos for you. And the final project that we worked on was the AWAs, or the alternative work arrangements. So this is tracking non-appointed staff, so this is different than the staff process. So what we did here previously was have a bunch of spreadsheets. There were PDFs that were being sent back and forth. But now, with Power Automate, that can all happen automatically. So staff can submit a form, their managers will get a notification to approve, and that can all be tracked in a list. And this means there's 0 manual tracking. And so what have we actually done here? We reduced the manual work by 80%. We've cut down on the errors, the efficiency increased, and of course, everyone would love a few extra hours in the week. But the real win here is recognizing that anyone can do this. And we have a really awesome tool here that everyone could take advantage of. You don't need to know how to code. You just need to be curious and have access to the right tools. So one thing we also learned here was we need to get people involved early in the process. So when we're testing out these tools, we need the end users to be part of that design process so that they could get what they want out of it. So yes, now AI tools like Power Automate and Copilot, they're not just tech tools anymore, they are everyday tools. And it's making automation easy and accessible to everyone. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it over to Katie.
Thank you, Christine. Let's have that applause for Christine. The crowd goes wild. Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
Fred.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Babcock from Enterprise Applications and Solutions Integration at ITS. And I'll just start off by saying that every successful digital transformation project is at its core a people project. And today I'll share how I use AI to listen at scale and analyze feedback from our manager training sessions during the transition from our previous time and attendance solution called Kronos to UTime, our new time and attendance solution, and how this directly supported our change enablement work to deliver value faster. And just to define a term, so change enablement or change management just helps people move through change faster so projects succeed. And one more note before we dive in, a huge shout out to the UTime team, the project team, the training team for a successful launch in August 2025. So the problem we were trying to solve was how to assess whether managers with diverse technical needs were ready for the transition to UTime. So using ProSize change management ADKAR model, which helps people move through change, we needed to assess if managers knew how to change, so the knowledge stage of ADKAR, and if they were ready for the transition, so the ability stage. And to do this, we needed to gather scalable, data-driven feedback across 17 manager training sessions totaling 26 hours for 637 managers across 28 U of T units. So a bit of a mouthful, and the training team did a great job. And many of these training sessions were offered concurrently, so the volume was quite high and offered at the same time. And the goal was to ensure user readiness, adoption, and ultimately successful digital transformation. And we also wanted to evaluate user engagement or our reinforcement activities to ensure we were delivering effective training and communications moving forward. So to do this, I developed our approach to use AI to listen at scale and check if our strategy was on track. So for the approach, I combined all 17 training session transcripts into one PDF, then uploaded that PDF to Copilot for analysis and asked it to extract and organize the FAQs, assess the audience, or in this case, the manager's sentiment, so how they felt about the change, and recommend future engagement activities to reinforce the transition to the new tool. So did we get there? Maybe like the other speakers, Copilot turned hundreds of unstructured comments into logically grouped FAQs within seconds instead of hours. And after further editing, we published the FAQs on our training platforms for future access. So this ties into the reinforcement activities. The real-time readiness assessment showed positive audience sentiment and readiness. So they were positive about the transition and they were ready for the change. And so Copilot confirmed we were on track with our reinforcement strategy and tactics. So this includes regular communication, enhanced support, resources, drop-in sessions, support channels, etc. The lessons learned, using AI, we can turn large amounts of qualitative data into insights at lightning speed, supporting evidence-based decisions. Real-time readiness checks really allow us to course correct as needed, making sure we can adapt to users' needs on the go. AI can accelerate proactive change and training measurements, so this offloads some of the work of more traditional assessments. And while change enablement requires human empathy, nuance, and judgment, AI can help us listen at scale to drive faster adoption and successful transformation to ultimately accelerate institutional benefits. So this concludes my presentation. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks to the AI Jam team, and please stay in touch. And I'll now hand it over to Tejas and Raj. Thanks.
And you know what happens now. Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
So interesting. We're just waiting for 1 sec for our next presenters to load up their program, which is kind of exciting and a little different for us. So I'm just going to chat for 1 second while they're getting ready. I love this theme that there is happening, and it's like a pipeline. Everybody is starting to think about AI as like the end or the middle of a pipeline process, because we're noticing that we're going to really need to move as a community towards organizing our starting information a certain way to be able to feed it in through these various systems like a Copilot or Power Automate or whatever. Like there are actually multiple steps along the way, and AI might be just one of them, and Copilot it's one of them. But what I noticed even between this jam and the last one is that we're all getting a lot more strategic about our origin information and how to start that process. So what are we naming things? What kind of documents are we preparing to feed it through a process that might involve AI at one step along the way? So I'll stop there, but super exciting today, and I'll pass it over to our final speakers with a really innovative presentation.
If you thought that was exciting, check this out. Wow.
Sorry.
Amazing.
Take it away.
Can we be spotlighted? Are we on spotlight? Yeah.
Yep, you're spotlighted. I got you.
Good. Hello, everyone. I'm Tejas.
And I'm Raj. And we both work as IT specialists here at UTSC. Together, we created Arya, a chatbot for knowledge-based articles. Like most ideas in IT, this one didn't start in a lab or a planning session. It started in the middle of a busy day at UTSC at the ITS help desk. Let me paint a familiar picture that I'm sure many of you have been through. You are covering for someone, and suddenly a client walks in with a question you can't answer. You know the information exists, buried somewhere in a guide or an internal site, but time is ticking. During this fall intake, that's exactly what happened. Everything hit us at once. Tickets, calls, walk-ins, all coming faster than we could respond. That's when Tejas stepped in to help another team. On his very first day, a student asked a question he had never heard before. He knew the answer was out there, but finding it meant digging through multiple resources while student waited.
That's when a simple but powerful question arose. What if finding answers could be instant? Now, when we looked at the problem, we didn't just want to fix it. We wanted to reimagine how support could work. Faster, smarter, and truly effortless for everyone. So here's what we built. We developed a chatbot using LangChain. And it's not your typical chatbot that just picks up a few keywords. This one actually understands what you're talking about. And to make that happen, we use something called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. Basically, that means every answer the bot gives is pulled directly from our own knowledge base, and not some random guesses or made up stuff. It's like we made sure it's brewing the right information and not just sipping on imaginary coffee and telling you tall tales. All that data is stored and retrieved through a Fias vector database, and we integrated it with Olama, running the DeepSeek language model. That combination gave us responses that sounded natural and professional, while keeping everything safe and secure. Now, was it a piece of cake? Not quite. At first, we tested it on a standard Dell Pro laptop. And as you can imagine, that didn't go so well. Each answer took over 3 minutes. But after a quick chat with our director, Michael Young, huge thanks to him, we moved it to our AI server. And thanks to our amazing systems team, the transition was effortless. The difference? Lightning fast responses. But of course, the elephant in the room was, as always, the data. It wasn't structured properly at first. But once we cleaned that up, the accuracy of our responses improved drastically. And honestly, we wanted the task of building the chatbot to be more than just a technical exercise. We wanted to have some fun. So we experimented with multiple models from 7 billion to 70 billion parameters. And let's just say our GPUs definitely got a solid workout. Even though this project is a work in progress, we explored how it could live as a kiosk, a web-based assistant, or be integrated across other platforms.
So in a nutshell, our aim was to make AI work for us in a practical, scalable way. What started as a help desk challenge grew into a full-time project with incredible support from our systems and app dev teams, and especially film services team, who created this virtual set you see around us today. It really shows what can happen when creativity and collaboration comes together. If you'd like to connect, collaborate, or just geek about AI, LangChain, or RAG systems, we would love to stay in touch. Thank you. Back to you, Esther.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And it's
Oh my gosh.
Wasn't that awesome? The
Awesomeness.
whole chat just erupted, guys. This is so inspiring. Well done. So we're just gonna wrap up. We've actually got a little bit of time. We've got about 10 minutes. So if anybody else wants to jump in, just throw your hand up if you want to, or throw a question in the chat.
It is a jam after all.
It's a jam, and I mean, this is just, I just have so many great takeaways from this, but I'll open the floor. Is there anything else anyone wants to share or ask of any of the presenters? Nice, thanks, Will. I see you posting.
Yeah.
We will make the slides available. Yeah, sorry, anybody else?
And there's a question from Belinda in the chat, just a little bit up there.
Go for it. Belinda, do you want to ask us? Sorry, I can scroll back up, but if you want to just shout it out, feel free.
Or I can read it.
Sure.
Or if you can see it.
Yeah. These questions came from when I was talking with a non-tech person who had concerns about using AI.
Yeah.
So the first one was, can you ask AI to make your conversation private and confidential? And the second question is AI sourcing copyrighted material for its responses? And the third one is, how do we use AI ethically and not impose on creative work?
Awesome. So I'm gonna touch on those, but I'm also gonna open the floor to the group. If there's other thoughts that I miss or that I should be adding here. So there's such good questions. I think one of the most important things that strikes me is when we say AI, which one do we mean? And in what context and what AI? So I think often we think AI is sort of this monolith thing. I think what it comes down to, what I'm learning as I'm on this journey is, depends on the tool. So for our U of T environment, we've got Copilot chat as a free tool for everybody to use. Anybody who's got, team space and a UTOR ID has access to use Copilot. That Copilot, that agreement is secure insofar as anything you put in there, any data you put in there, if you uploaded a document or you say, read my SharePoint documents, that's all within our agreement with Microsoft and has been agreed upon to not train their models. So that is the most secure AI chatbot experience that all staff and students have access to right now. So great. Okay. What I'll also say is the kitchen is part of launching a few other pilots. So one of those is the chatgpt.edu pilot, just smaller batch of AIs, chatbots that are, you pay a certain fee for a year license. And that agreement is also outlined as that data is not to be training their LLMs. OpenAI makes that tool. That data is not to go to OpenAI. So our security team has cleared it for up to level 3 data. The general rule that we're advising everybody is if you're using one of the approved pilots inside U of T, Claude for Education is another one of our pilots, Cogniti is another one of our pilots, so smaller batch offerings to the community. Those are all listed on the AI website under tools, by the way. So if you're curious what we've got so far, and our AI kitchen site will start to list those in a little bit more order and clarity for you. That's coming. But all to say, big message I'm getting from our risk team is nothing past level 3 data should go into any of the little pilot tools with the edu on the end or Copilot. Anything outside of those, like ChatGPT out in the world, not through the ChatGPT edu program of ours, you just want to be thinking ahead always to that being public. So you would not want to put anything in there. You don't want to put your resume on there. You don't want to put anything on there that has personal data about yourself. And nor do you want to put proprietary information from U of T. So if you have confidential contracts or something, and you're like, I would like this to get analyzed by an AI, you would use Copilot. You would not be trying to go to that free ChatGPT. Belinda, remind me the rest of the questions. I'm sorry tell me if I haven't answered anything properly. If there's anything missing there.
Let's see here. How do we use AI ethically and not impose on creative work?
Good one. So this is a question I think a lot of people are dealing with. This is not a U of T question. This is like an AI in the world question. And I would not claim to be an AI expert in the world. So I will tell you what I understand from our kind of U of T point of view on this question. Everybody is concerned about proprietary work, artwork, creative work, research work, literary work. That question is like one of the core questions, which is why we're spending a minute figuring out how to launch something internally for U of T that does respect and protect that work. So for now, our guidelines have been don't put any of that work into any external AI product. And I would go so far as to say, I wouldn't yet put any of that work even into the ChatGPT edu or Claude edu, because that's really proprietary research information. I would go to your local communities of practice who know everything as much as we know. That's what they know. We are learning from them all the time about what is appropriate for the different types of creative work across the university to put in or around an AI product. So if you're a researcher, you want to be talking to Chris about what is appropriate to be putting into any of these tools. If you're an instructor or a faculty, you want to be talking to CTSI. What is an appropriate thing to put into Cogniti? How does that work? CTSI has a ton of documentation on their website about how Cogniti works. That's their sort of AI for instructors bot. So you want to be reaching out to your community of practice around exactly what your content, how it fits in with these tools. Lori, is there anything you want to add to that?
Oh, no, that's a great summary, Esther. Just looking at Armin's comment about large LLMs and their use of either public data, like, I mean, if it's public data they're using to train their models, that's one thing. but sometimes they're using license data, but there's sort of controversy about whether it's truly
Right.
licensed. So
That's
there's
right.
some underlying issues about the
That's right.
ethics that really warrant caution on thinking about your sources. Using if you're using chatbots specifically, the ones that have a reference link that then take you to the reference source, like looking at the primary sources is always the way to go. That's what you need to reference, not the outputs of the chatbot, to be confident that the content is indeed something that is appropriate for, you know, how it's been used becomes more transparent if you know what the source is. So that's one comment I have. The other is that there's forthcoming some guidelines from our PSEC. Our folks there have crafted some guidelines for administrative staff on appropriate use. And we won't delve into those today, but I'll just say keep your antenna up. That's going to be available widely in the next short while, and that will give us some more guidance on appropriate use. Much appreciated from PSEC that that's been shared out or will be shared out.
Yeah. Those are really great
No, there,
questions.
Neil's put a link to it there. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Hot off the press. Very
I
hot
think
off the press.
we're close to the end, so I don't want to. Awesome. If there's any other questions, you can throw them in this chat, and we can check it out after and follow up with you. But I don't want to hold anybody up. The last thing I'll say is just a few plugs for staying in touch that are listed in front of us now. So for AI at U of T, you know, big picture AI led by Susan McCann's team and digital strategies. Any information that they have on AI, appropriate use, learning resources is all on that ai.utoronto website. And that's the link that you can see on your screen here. They host a monthly event called the AI Roundup, where Susan McCann presents sort of different use cases and sort of content from the industry of what's going on in AI broadly outside U of T. But she's also going to be incorporating to speak to some of these questions, kind of the guidelines and kind of how we want to be negotiating it and working through it ourselves internally at U of T. So you can always register for that roundup and join that conversation, which is wonderful. The other thing is we have a new nascent landing page for the AI Kitchen, which is an entity underneath this AI bucket that's really focused on tools and expertise and community. We're going to be building out our AI products for the university. So that's really what the kitchen. Go ahead.
I'm going to
Yes.
say our
Yes.
products and our programs. So
And our
I'm looking
programs,
at
great, Lauren,
Kamala's
yes.
question: when is there training available? We're working on some literacy, fluency, PD type activities to try and fill in the gaps where people are looking for help. So also coming soon.
Totally. And if you are inquiring about those, you can use our intake method through the kitchen as well, because learning is happening inside of there, as well as through the AI group, the digital strategies team. So we have a new email, ai.kitchen.utoronto, which automatically creates a ticket for our team. If we can't get to it right away, because we're a new burgeoning team, apologies for the delay, but we are keeping track of the kinds of things that you're asking about and wanting so that we can learn more about what the kitchen needs to do for this group and this community to support us as we're doing AI. So feel free to check those two out. And then last plug is for Thursday at 3 in general, which is wonderful. Go ahead, Lori.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks for joining us today. We have one more coming up next month, which is on the topic of procurement in AI. So if you're someone who's involved in IT procurement processes and wrangling with vendors on how to create appropriate contracts and what you need to be attentive to, that will be a great session for you as well. I will post a link to that in the chat as we close out today. And thanks so much to our presenters. Should we give them one last round of applause if we can? I don't know if we have the sound effects, but we'll give them the visuals, give them a high five, give them a clap. Great work. It's hard to present your stuff in 5 minutes. I'm just going to say it's very snappy presentations are tough. Oh, there it is. Great.
Well done.
And they did a great job.
Last plug is if you're interested in another iteration of this event, please let us know. This has been an ongoing kind of brand new cycle, these AI jams, but I'm seeing a lot of value here for us. So please let us know if you're interested. And then please think about if you ever want to present what that might look like, if there's projects you're working on, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks to our colleagues behind the scenes, Jane Waldner and Will Hykoop, who are helping with the music and the slide integration and coordination of the presentation. So shout out to the team here as well. All right, thanks for joining Thursday at 3 today. Yeah, got to step up the game. That presentation from UTSC really set the bar, didn't it?
Sure did.
Whoa.
Sure did. It's a whole new world.